I'd like to call the regular Board of Education meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you roll call, please?
Ms. Flynn? Here. Stewart?
Here.
Ms. Patchen?
Here.
Mr. Rakowski?
He's excused.
Mr. Singh?
Here. Here.
Mr. Wolf?
Present.
Mr. Zopp?
Here.
Mrs. Gadsden?
Here.
Mr. White?
Here. Fire exit, same way.
Fire exits are in the rear of the LGI.
Alrighty. We're starting tonight with a public hearing on the Smart Schools on bond. Is that Tim?
Yes.
Tim?
So we're going to probably do the hearing similar to what we do for district safety. So because it's been on the website for 30 days, this is just an opportunity for the public to ask questions or the board to ask any questions. So we have to open and close the hearing, and then we can move forward with the process of getting it approved by New York State.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Does
So I
any
don't
board
know if
members have
anyone-
questions about the Smart Schools bond? Honey?
I do have a question.
Sure.
I just mostly had a question about the professional development aspect of it and how that's integrated with it. I know I saw the numbers. I don't have it up right in front of me, but I don't know if Tim would talk about that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What specifically do you?
Just the professional development aspect of it, how that's built in, how you envision it.
Well, the professional development piece of that is actually not built in. This is more about the equipment.
So this is purely equipment.
Correct. So for the professional development component of this, we'll be working out of our regular budgetary funds.
So is that in this budget already that we've approved? Or?
Well, my understanding from the first phase of the Smart Bond is that it's equipment, it's more back-end equipment, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's both. So we have the back-end infrastructure equipment for the networking stuff. There's really no professional development
Right, there's enough of
associated
that,
with
but there's
that.
a bunch of smart or whiteboard.
Correct, and it's the interactive whiteboard piece. So for that, we're continuing our regular professional development programs. We're actually bringing in one now. Cecilia and I have been working on that, and Eric as well, for an online, on-demand program that allows you to go through different topics and features very heavily on the smart board software that we use, as well as generic topics. So you have your more Google apps, Microsoft Office, those sorts of things. So it's kind of a broad-ranging program, and that will cover this as well.
So I'm just going to follow up with that and ask Cecilia, for the curriculum part, has there been considerations about the extensive PD to ensure that if we're going to invest this money in, to set aside PDs in your budget to ensure that they're getting professional development, the teachers are?
Yeah, so there's a couple of avenues for that right now. So one, know that we have clean data trainers, so they're in our schools right now and have some ability that they can support teachers as a principal determines necessary within the schools to support, knowledge and awareness of use of some of the technologies that they have. In addition to that, Mr. Wright, with the Professional Development Committee, has had teacher trainer sessions. So some of our teachers that have skills and expertise in how they've used and integrated technology as a part of their classroom instruction have provided some workshops at introductory levels for their peers. The third component is what Mr. Fasheen talked about, is online, web-based professional development that we've been looking at and working with content coordinators to identify relevant topics to continue to support the use of integrating technology in the classroom. And so across a variety of topics and subject areas, and are available for teachers to use to gain CTLE credits. And we'll continue to build that out with the professional development plan, but those are the components that are there right now.
Is there a way to track usage? Like,
Just use the mic.
Are you able to identify instructors who probably don't admit but might be hesitant to integrate technology? So is there a way to know if there's uptake in utilization, or is it just self-reported?
Yeah, well, it actually does keep reports on logged hours for instructional materials, so you know who's watched what, how they've done. There's progress monitoring. There's some question and answer components to it too, so you can see how they've been doing. And that's the online piece that we're talking about. As far as the in-class pieces, we do track enrollment and who's attending these sessions as well, and we do that through My Learning Plan. So.
And then is there a plan for outreach for maybe late adopters to troubleshoot
Late
why they're not
adopters.
late adopters? Sort of in the technology adoption curve, isn't there always early adopters?
Well, at this point, we're still kind of putting that piece into place, so not at this point yet.
Okay.
That's important because people come into the district who came from other districts that have other systems, other software, and it's like all of a sudden learning how to speak Greek.
Mhm.
And if you don't have somebody to take them by the hand, they're lost, and they stay lost.
Sure.
And so that's what I think she means by late adopters, as well as people who come in, after the initial training. You buy the training.
Well,
And that's good as long as it lasts, and then what do you do?
Though I just think with the hardware investment and then also software investment, but just anything that's I'm basing it on something that I read that another school did with their a technology grant, not the Smart Schools Bond, but a grant that they won, and how they did rollout was they kind of identified early adopter ambassadors and they trained the other teachers.
Sure.
And then because they had this one shot at this large amount of money, and
Yes.
they realized this to make the most of this investment, they needed to make sure everyone was using it.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know if there's a way to that we have a plan for identifying that we're going to get the most out of it if we don't know if people are really using it.
Sure. Well, go ahead, please.
Oh, so I was going to say, what addresses a couple of those pieces, and then go back to Mr. Wolf. So that's part of the work that Mr. Wright has been doing with identifying which teachers across the district at elementary, middle school, high school level are doing things like use of Google Classroom as a platform, that are using a blended classroom approach to learning. And they have designed workshops, sessions that were delivered across Superintendent's Conference Day, and those we look to be built out. So some of those folks that are early adopters, certainly we know who they are and what some of their strengths are in terms of the way they've been integrating technology as
like
a part
Mr.
of the
Burke
classroom.
and Mrs. Peterson.
Those are two
Yeah.
of the teachers as such.
Training.
The other place where we rely on this is really through our principals, in daily supervision of being able to see what's evidenced in the classroom of the use of technology, the use of our wireless carts, and other examples of that. So that's another place where we'll continue to identify those teachers that are putting it to practice. The third piece of it, though, to speak to your comment, Mr. Wolf, was about folks who come into the district and maybe don't have knowledge of our systems, our gradebook system, our student management system, our IEP management system. That's a primary role of our clean data trainers at each school level, where they would support the development or the orientation and then ongoing support for teachers that are newer to the district or new to the systems, or for some of our teachers that maybe have been here but still need some continued troubleshooting or support. And that's a role that they play. And that's identified through the principals as to which teachers require that.
And the big benefit there is that it's flexible enough where we can kind of adapt as we hear feedback. So as we determine needs from either the administrators or the folks themselves that are looking for a little extra help, we can kind of adjust and make accommodations there.
Do we have, is that a contract we have? Say Clean Data, is that a company or?
No, those are our own staff,
Our own staff.
that are paid a stipend role to provide some of the after-school or before-school training sessions throughout the year. And those are scheduled primarily through the principal, but fall under the direction of Mr. Fashine.
So is there an approximate time after we submit where it would be approved?
If we're okay today, we will button up any feedback, make any adjustments with the committee on the final version that needs to be adopted at the next board meeting. Once that's adopted, we can submit to the state, and then it's basically whenever they're ready. It's supposed to be quarterly, their review process, but they're not very transparent about the dates and times that they do it.
So is there a rollout to have the smart boards in the 150 classrooms installed over the summer?
Well, we can't actually make any purchases until we've received the okay from the state. Once we do, then we can try and lay out what specifically we're looking to do, timeline-wise and equipment-specific-wise, what direction we're going to go.
So after you submit, I heard it's submitted electronically, and it's about a week and a half that they say yay or nay to it. Is that?
No, that's the quarterly review that we have to wait for them to get together, and they review all of them together in one session. They do that quarterly.
So what are you hearing about the time frame for the initial?
That's the problem. I'm not hearing. So, like I said, they're not very transparent as to when they'll be having those review sessions. So I can tell you they say quarterly, and that's about all they give us. We've mentioned to them quite a few times that we'd like to have a little better clue what that means, but
So
quarterly.
what's the rollout plan, like if it gets approved, would we do work over the summer, or is it when's it going to be? Is it going to be disrupting class during?
No. We don't schedule these things for disrupting class. So we either do it during breaks in a large-scale implementation, or we'll do after hours if we can. We'll work with the companies to kind of figure out what it is we can and can't do. So with a quantity of about 150, that's the kind of thing where you probably want to do it over a break. The nice part about this new equipment is it's a lot, it's very much simplified installation-wise compared to the older models. And it's basically like mounting a TV on the wall at home. There's a little bit of cabling that needs to be run as far as back to where the computer will be. But it used to be a whole elaborate setup with the wall and mounting issues. So it's much better. So I expect it'll be easier to do over a break. It would just be a matter of how quickly can we get them, when are we going to get the okay to do the purchasing, and then we go from there.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
So I don't see a resolution for anything. We're not approving anything tonight. We're just listening.
It has to be the next meeting.
Next
Should
meeting.
open it to
Hearing
the,
first and then the meeting.
should open the hearing to the floor, if anybody wants to speak.
I was asking before. Did anybody have any questions? No. All right, public hearing on the budget. Anne-Marie?
Okay. Good evening. So I'm going to do the budget hearing. So at the end, I'll ask if the board has questions, and anyone in the audience that has questions for the budget.
Just before we start, so we've moved on from the smart bond?
Correct.
I thought there was a public hearing on that.
It was I asked if there were any questions, and no one chimed in.
Oh, I didn't hear that you officially opened the public hearing. I thought it was just questions among ourselves.
Board.
It said the board of the public.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the public. All right.
And it has been up on the website, and I know people have emailed.
No, I know. I don't think people have not commented on it. I just, as a matter of procedure, I didn't hear public, that's all.
Okay. Anne-Marie,
Okay.
public hearing on the budget.
Okay. So I thought I'd start with this quote because I think that a lot of the people in the district could relate to this. So this year has been a lot of small steps forward day by day, which led to long-term success. So the long-term success for us has been seeing a lot of positive changes and influences during the year, but long-term success will also mean moving into the next school year. These are the items that impacted creation of the 17-18 budget. Again, the reduction of the teachers' retirement and employees' retirement contributions helped a great deal when we were preparing the budget. Those percentages were decreased, which allowed us to do some other things in the budget. We did get an increase of state aid in the final legislative budget, so we were extremely happy about that. And the use of reserves and unappropriated fund balance, which we'll talk about a little more in a few minutes. So the new items, the additions that are in the budget, we're adding 3 elementary teaching positions. That was a goal to keep the class size under 25 for K through 2 classrooms across the 4 elementary schools. 2 special education teaching positions. Right now they look like they will be filled at the middle school, but we're still looking at class sizes, and we're going to go forward with that before hiring the staff. The human resources director position, which we've been trying to put into the budget over the last few years. It's been in, it's been out, so again, we're putting it back in. We budgeted for a 0.6 FTE music teacher, and as we spoke in the budget process, we are going to have a dedicated elementary band teacher. We believe that we can use the remaining 3 staff to cover the other general music and chorus positions, but we have budgeted 0.6 just in case we needed some extra classroom support. There's a dispatcher in the budget in the transportation line. A maintenance truck was presented during the facilities and operation, and we want to make sure that we have the proper and adequate fleet to do some snow removal. This year we've been lucky except for one big storm, but you never know next year. And we added, before the board adopted, we added a pool filter, and the pool filter was something that we were going to talk about putting in the capital project, but we're a little concerned about its condition and its health, and so we decided that we would add it here in the equipment line. This slide shows the tax cap calculation on how we got to the 1.54%, which is our tax cap. And again, on the next slide, you will see how we got there. So we have, as part of the law, we need to present the budget in 3 parts. So the administrative, the instructional, and the capital. So on the expenditure side, you will see the 3 areas, a comparison of 16-17 to 17-18, and the increases and the percent increases allocated across the board. So notice in the bottom right-hand corner, the budget-to-budget increase is the 2.81%, but you will see again at the levy is only at 1.54, which is the cap. This slide, I know it's a little bit small, and again, this PowerPoint will be on the website as of tomorrow morning, so if anyone who's watching wants to look at it in a little more detail. This is the revenue side, how we actually are paying for it. In fact, I received a phone call today from a taxpayer asking why the revenue side wasn't on the postcard, and I said just stay tuned because the newsletter's coming out this week because I couldn't fit that much on the postcard. But this is an important aspect as well. In the second column, it shows the proposed budget for 17-18 and how we pay for that. So how much is the levy, how much state aid we received. So the first version that you saw of this was a little different because the governor's run was a little less in state aid. But notice again the 2 important percentages at the bottom. So the bottom shows the increase to the budget, but the top part shows the levy, which is right at the cap. The second proposition we're putting on the ballot is a bus proposition, and Mr. Mackey gave his recommendations during the transportation budget. We are going to use a little bit, we do budget in the general fund for buses, so we had a little bit put in there, so we only want to go out for a total proposition of $380,000. And as you remember in the past, we do not raise the levy by the $380,000. We split that cost over 5 years to match the transportation aid that we received over 5 years. And the transportation aid ratio is 59.1%, so we received that percent back against the bus when we raised the levy for the bus proposition. And just to kind of go over the role of the transportation department for people who are watching, it's very important that we take our students to and from school, but we do use our transportation department for a lot of other things. Sports being a big part of, especially now when it seems to rain every day and we need to reschedule games and we're trying to fit it in before the end of the season. We have work programs for some of our students, child care programs, so we do transport to child care locations. We do after-school IRP transportation for the elementary. There's tutoring and special services, so for child's receiving home instruction, we do have arrangements to have children brought in for their services. We do some of the field trips, or most of the field trips during the day. We have 504 medical requests, and we do transport displaced students under McKinney-Vento. So there's a lot of aspects to the transportation department. So I wanted to give you an idea of when you talk about levy, it's hard for people to kind of see how much would my taxes go up. So I used an example that I've used in the past. I want to start with a caveat before I get into the City of Beacon. I did have a meeting with the city administrator last week because there's a lot of building going on in Beacon. So I was curious to see what kind of things would go on to the tax roll. So I use the assessed values from last year. I don't get the new assessed values till July. But I wanted to get an idea of how that would impact. So remember, the levy is the levy. We don't increase, we don't get more money, we just get whatever the levy is. The important part is how it's distributed amongst all the taxpayers. So if more properties come on the tax rolls, by July, which we are anticipating that some will, that will increase the amount of taxpayers out there, which may reduce the amount that each taxpayer will receive. So these are using last year's numbers. And again, the City of Beacon is seeing the biggest growth. So when I present at the end of August, when we do the tax warrant, the numbers may look a little bit different. So this is just the estimate as of now. So we use a median assessed value in Beacon is about $290,500. Again, that median home value may change a little bit as well with the market and how much houses are worth in Beacon. But just to be consistent with prior years. So an increase to the budget would mean an increase of about $61 a year, and the budget and the bus proposition would be about $69 per year. And then I calculated out how much that would be per month or per day to give you some perspective. In town of Fishkill, the median home value was $353,500 with STAR. So it's about $73 per year and $85 per year with the budget and the bus proposition. And again, the monthly and the daily rates there. And also the town of Wappingers. So the median home value there is a little higher of $350,500 and then with STAR, it's the budget would increase the taxes about $75 per year or $84 including the budget and the bus proposition. The contingency budget. The postcards that went out had a little information about contingency budget. When you receive your newsletter this week, it'll have a little bit more. But when the tax cap legislation was passed, there was a change in the contingency budget calculation. So there will be no increase in the tax levy is allowed. So basically, whatever the levy was last year has to remain this year. So for the current year, if we had to go to contingency budget, we would have to cut out $565,195 out of the current budget, which would be significant cuts. And again, these are the things that the board and the administration would have to look at presenting if that became the case. So cutting non-mandatory equipment purchases, so only things that are required. Charging full cost of facility use for non-school organizations. And that's, I think, the biggest area, and I kind of want to emphasize it. So a lot of not-for-profit organizations use our schools for no cost, especially the City of Beacon, because we have now the after-school program, the rec programs are all in there. So for majority of the uses, except for the pool, which is separate, they use the facilities for no cost. So that's a great opportunity for these organizations to have places to meet, to use the gyms in the winter. But if you have a contingency budget, the rules change. So you have to calculate what the fair market value would be. That would really change the dynamics of who's using the building. That would really be a disruption for the programs that are running, and it would really not be great for kids in the long run. And again, we'd have to look at reducing and eliminating school-related building use. So even if we had to cut in certain areas, it might mean not having as many activities after school, which again is not what's best for children. And hopefully we never had to get to cutting athletics and clubs and activities, but since they are not mandated, those are things that you have to look at. And we always have to put on eliminated non-core classes as art, music, and electives. And as we know, the board and the public, those are very important to all of us. So those are things that you don't want to look at as well. And the cap class size to 35 is more a look at. You know, that would be the last thing we would possibly want to look at. The other thing that's new this year, and I put the language up there for a reason because I wanted to be able to put the PowerPoint up in case people could kind of read through it and digest it, and if they had questions to reach out. So we are going to have 4 propositions on our ballot this year. So first would be the budget. The second will be the bus proposition. That is similar to what we've done in the past. And this year, the third proposition is about the student board member. So the board has actively talked about adding a student board member. We wanted to do it last year. There was a lot going on last year, so it needed to get out into the paper. It had to go out into the legal notices, so it just didn't quite make it. So we made it our top priority to make sure it got on the ballot this year. So this is the legal language of it, but you will see this as a yes/no Proposition 3 on the ballot. And we'll also have Proposition 4. And again, it's a lot of words, but we're asking the public if we can take some of our unappropriated, unassigned fund balance and put it into a capital reserve. And the reason this is important is that we've been talking for the last 5 months about doing a capital project. And we're really talking about by June coming up with a final list and talking about getting plans and hopefully going out to vote in December. So by putting some money into a capital reserve, it actually lets us do a little bit of a bigger project. It lets us fix things that came that were identified in our 5-year plan. So it's and it's also doing some addition work that the committee has kind of been working on. So the thought process is the committee is getting their formal list together. They will come to a board meeting in June, discuss with the rest of the board, and then get the board's whole approval to move it forward. Once we move it forward, there's some paperwork to do, some initial architect's drawings and all of that. But the goal is to bring the final list to June and also then to go to vote in December. So that's all of a separate vote that will come later. But this capital reserve just gives us the opportunity to do more, and it gives us the money to help fund that project. So as a reminder, our budget vote is a week from tomorrow, May 16th. It's from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. We vote at Beacon High School for all City of Beacon residents and at Glenham Elementary School for Fishkill and Wappinger residents. Questions? So I'll first take the board. Has any questions? Go ahead, Kenya.
So I had asked about the percentage of funds that come from state aid versus taxes. And so is it in that number where you see the tax cap?
Hold on. It's probably the number and not the percentage, even though, I'll just bring up the slide. Okay. So the state aid and the levy are the two numbers up on the top. So state aid runs between 40 and 45%, and I can calculate. I did say I would have that, and I did more of the percentage as a comparison. But we do get a significant amount still from state aid. So for our district perspective, we're lucky. But that has gradually decreased in the 12 years I've been here. It was more of a 50-50 split, even with state aid being a little bit more than 50, and it's progressively decreased from there. As you notice, also we have to use reserves and unappropriated fund balance, and we're using the tax reduction reserve. So there's other ways that we have to kind of help to keep the levy at the cap, and also use whatever state aid that we do have.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Are there any, maybe not in this, but it wouldn't be for this budget, but or maybe it would be, I'm not sure, but alternate funding sources?
For example, federal funding, are you talking?
Like federal funds, is that part of this?
Federal funds are separate, so it's a separate fund. So we receive title grants, we receive Section 611 and 619, which help pay for some of our special education costs. But that's in a federal fund, so it's separate. Okay. There's no vote required for that. We receive the money from the feds through the state. So we just really present what the general fund will be and what the voters are voting on. But some of the costs of the district are paid for out of federal grants.
So that's not contained within the...
That is not, no.
What is the number, by the way, approximately in our current budget from federal aid?
We don't have federal aid in here.
I know, but you have it in another set of books, right?
Correct.
So, separate fund.
We get over $1 million in federal funds.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? Just
Hi.
come up to the microphone so people at home.
Okay, I'm sorry, I came in a little late, but I remember on the postcard that the administrative costs went up by 17 or 18%, and here I see 3-point-something%.
So what's on the postcard is administrative, so that's central office. It's a little different, and it's difficult. So, for example, I had a phone call about those percentages being confusing. It's a higher percentage because the number is lower. So the reason that area is where the human resources director position is being added.
$22,000, but they're just
It's in there, right.
Different number.
The legal term, the administrative, the instructional, and the capital, there is more in the administrative area in the three-part budget. It's a little bit confusing. There's a little more detail in the postcard. Tomorrow I'll have on the whole budget book on the website, and it'll have code by code and what codes make up the three parts of the budget. So it'll be a little easier for you to see, area by area before making any decisions.
And one more thing, there was, I remember from last year, there was something that we had to use up, some funds that we had to use up, some reserve or some grant.
I mean, if you're talking about the tax reduction reserve,
Maybe.
so the tax reduction reserve, we received a little over $1 million when we sold Old Beacon High School. So that has to be used within a 10-year period. And we are using $250,000 of it. But this year I did put up the school year we received it, which was 2010-11, just to kind of give a perspective. So we had $700,000 now. So after we use the $250,000, we'll dip down a little bit lower. But that has to be used to reduce the levy, and it has to be used within 10 years. So there's kind of restrictions on that.
Yeah. And I find the fourth proposition very confusing.
I know. So we have to legally present it that way. That was a resolution that the board approved. And I mean, even in the past, our bus propositions have been a little bit wordy, and they're a little difficult, which is kind of why I wanted to include the wording in the PowerPoint and just give an explanation here. So we're kind of stuck between what we legally have to put on the ballot. I agree, it's confusing, but I wanted people to know, actually have time to read it, through it, and also know that it's money that we already have. It's in unappropriated fund balance, so it's available to the general fund, but we need the voters to approve it to put it towards capital. The board and the central administration can't just decide to transfer money into the capital reserve to use for a capital project in the future. That's the law as well. So we have to have voter approval. But yes, I do agree it's wordy. Unfortunately, I have to put out what our legal firm has advised us to do.
Can I just add to that, Anne Marie, that with the unappropriated fund balance, they look and they want around 4% excess. So we try and keep that, but this is a way to save for any future capital projects that we want to have. So it's like earmarking it for any capital projects that we're going to be doing.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay,
Thanks a lot.
you're welcome.
Any other questions?
No. Okay.
Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
I need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Motion to adjourn to executive session to review the employment history of particular individuals, to discuss collective bargaining regarding the CSEA nursing unit, to discuss matters made exempt by federal or state law, and to seek legal advice from the school attorney, state law attorney-client privilege.
Second. Who is second, Craig? You ready? All right, let's review the agenda. There are no corrections to the agenda. We have student and school presentations, parent groups, open to the public, interim superintendent report, committee reports including board comments, unfinished business, and then the consent agenda. The board is not expected to have a second executive session, and then the adjournment of the meeting. Are there any student or school presentations? Seeing none. Parent groups? Seeing none. Open to the public. No one signed up.
My name is Michelle Mark. I'm a parent. I missed that technology presentation for the Smartphones app, but I just want to say I'm excited that it's happening and I hope that it will be improved. There was a thread on the Making New York Facebook group this week that I wanted to bring to your attention if you haven't seen it. There were several store owners on the west side of expressed that there's groups of students after school that are menacing the stores. I don't know how to explain it. You have to read it for yourself. I don't want to make of it more than it is or less, but it's definitely an issue. They also spoke about the fact that I don't want to misrepresent anything, but it's an issue, and I think that it's an issue that needs to be handled by the city, that there aren't enough recreation opportunities for the youth after school, but I think that it's also an issue that it would be good if it could be a collaboration between the city and the school district. So I can send you a link to it if you want to read it again. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Thank you. I wasn't aware of it. I don't know.
No, I was on this.
Yeah.
All right. Any other open to the public comments? Interim superintendent report.
Thank you. So first and foremost, after we had the budget hearing, I just want to remind everyone that next Tuesday, May 16th, is our budget vote. So we'd love to see you all out and cast your vote. The postcards having a little bit of the budget information were mailed out last week, and the newsletter should be in the mail tomorrow. So you should get it between now and Friday, so it has more information. And then on the website, we will have all of the PowerPoint presentations that were done by each of the departments, the one I did this evening, and then the budget book with the detail per line item. So if you need to, you can reach out and email me directly if you have any specific questions. I also want to mention that we are going to be having half days at the end of school. So we're going to have 2 half days. One will be Wednesday, June 21st, and the other will be Thursday, June 22nd. Thursday, June 22nd is the last day for students, and June 23rd is the last day for staff. So we're having early dismissal. I will have the times on the website. The high school will be in Regents, so it'll be a dismissal for middle school and elementary school. We will send out communication to the parents. We'll make sure that everyone knows, but I wanted to mention it here publicly first. I mentioned the postcards in the newsletters that you will be receiving. I also want to recognize one of our Forrestal students, Zakia Mickler, who was named the ambassador at Maria Ferrari Hospital for yesterday. They had their walk. And I know that Ms. Baez and Mrs. Cirillo were definitely, and I don't know if there were other staff there, so I apologize if there were, but we were trying to get a group of people to do that, to do the walk, and we were very excited. I'm sure you saw Zakia in the newspaper. There was a lot of media there. It was very exciting for her and her family, so I just want to congratulate her on yesterday on the walk. Thanks.
That's awesome. All right. Committee reports and including board comments. Craig?
Very important for people to come out and vote next week and to vote for everything that's being put up on that agenda. I know it's a little complex, but I hope that anybody who has questions about it would ask rather than turn off on it. I'm pleased to see the student representative appear on the ballot. We've talked about that many times, and so here it is. We have a capital reserve program, which is going to help in the long run make things more affordable in taking care of our buildings. So, as Mrs. Corderoni said, and as the banner on the front of the building says, get out and vote.
Thank you. Anthony?
First, I wanted to wish all the students best of luck in the tests that are coming up this month. I know there's quite a few AP tests coming this week and beginning of next week. I wanted to ask about bringing the school to prison pipeline presentation into the district here. I know it was given in Poughkeepsie, so I wanted to bring that up under either new business or whatever the president's pleasure is where that item should go.
Let's do it. I think, did you bring that up at the last meeting?
No, it was the diversity committee meeting. was in a board meeting.
Let's do it under unfinished business as discussions.
Sure. And I was approached by the Lions Club. I'd gotten certified in using their Plus Optics machine, which is a screening machine that they typically do in other school districts to measure for eye problems from children 6 and under. And I was approached by them to asking me how they can get a meeting with the school district. So we'll talk to Anne Marie after that, after this meeting, or soon thereafter about that. That's all I have.
Diversity committee, anything?
No, we haven't met since April.
No, we're meeting in June, right?
Yeah, we're meeting in June, yeah.
He wants to date, right? He, I think it's June. The date.
The next date, June 3rd, I thought, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
that's what I think. No, June 3rd is Saturday.
I'm sorry.
Is that subliminal message we're sending to people?
I'll tell you.
There's certain dates in my brain right now.
June 12th.
June 12th.
Right.
Maybe he's suffering from low sugar levels and needs some fruit.
Yeah, somebody stole the apples I had put there, so I'm just gonna munch on goldfish and into the mic, if that's okay with you guys.
Bill's up. Bill, any comments?
Yes, I attended the National Honor Society induction ceremony, so my congratulations again to all of the students. In order to be a member of the National Honor Society, not only do you need to have good grades, but you need to be involved in the community in terms of volunteering, things like that. So it's great to see those type of students that we have in our school district. I mean, they just bring honor to our district by all of the activities, and so congratulations to them, and of course to their parents as well. I attended the Dutchess County School Board Association meeting. Our guest speaker was Julie Morlett, who's the Director of Government Relations for New York State School Board Association. She was there to talk about how school boards can effectively advocate for whatever their positions are with our legislators. I did bring back she had various documentation. Some of the services that they give, and most of these are free, at least in her department. State analysis that they'll help you understand your district state aid package. They'll give you district-specific data on the state's enacted and proposed budgets. If you have an issue that you want to have addressed with your legislators, they'll do bill drafting services to help you draft the legislation to give to the legislature. Lobby days, they can arrange meetings with the state senators and state assembly people on our behalf. So if you really want to go up and meet with somebody, they can help arrange that. They can also arrange in-district visits. So if you can't go up to Albany, they can arrange a visit with your legislators in district. They also give local training via a webinar to help train us on how to effectively advocate in Albany. So those are just some of the services that they offer, and they're free. That's it. Thank you. Meredith?
I wanted to talk about two things that the Beacon Arts and Education Foundation sponsors that are going on right now. One is the 5th grade mural project. It's a legacy project that this is the second year that they've done it, and the kids are getting to go to Common Ground Farm and learn about the plants and the vegetables, and also I think they visit the animals, and then they come back and they make a mural that will then be installed in their school for them to be remembered by. So that's really exciting that that's happening now. Also, it is Calico Ball season. Rehearsals have begun. The kids are amazing. I was in Sergeant School last week photographing the rehearsals for the booklet that the Arts and Ed Foundation does, and just always amazed at the focus of the children. There was not a single disciplinary moment. Everyone was so happy to be there and working really hard and really excited about it. I also wanted to mention, I had a meeting with the education department from DIA today, and there's also really exciting programs going on with DIA in our schools right now, both at the 2nd grade and the middle school, and there's another program that they are taking applications for right now for high school students that can be found, could we put that on our website? Would that be possible to put the application for the DIA program on our website?
Just for high school students?
Yeah.
Maybe the high school website?
So should I contact Dr. Sieverding to do that? or-
Yes.
I'll do it, yeah, because we have a section of not even school related, so outside organizations, so
Okay.
I'll find the place for it.
Okay, so
I'm
Do you
just
have
thinking
it as-
they go to the high school. The only reason I'm saying the high school website, Meredith, is that's where the kids typically.
that makes
go.
sense, yeah. And also guidance is aware of it and all our teachers are aware of it. They also mentioned another program that they're doing that, this is the first I heard about, that Cecilia and Anne Marie you probably know. They're doing, they've done a lot of professional development with Beacon teachers, and they're doing another day on June 9th. Do you know about this?
Yes, for the county.
Exactly, it's countywide, but Beacon teachers are welcome to be there. It sounded really interesting. And in general, they just were expressing how important Beacon is to them and that they really want to continue to cultivate the relationship. So,
I believe at least one of our teachers is helping to facilitate, to talk about some of the
Yeah.
work that they've been doing in collaboration with DIA. So it's
Yeah.
exciting for us to be able to showcase that too.
yeah, it sounds like it's been really meaningful. And
You mentioned, the first one you just did the high school, and then what was the
There's
first
a-
one?
Oh, the program at the high
Right,
school.
is it-
So there's a program that they're accepting applications for right now for high school students. There's an intensive summer program, maybe it's 10 weeks, and then they also do a fall program. And these are not just for Beacon students, but Beacon students are certainly welcome to apply. It's completely free. It's
I think I saw this, because you can't miss the day.
I'm sorry?
I think I read something about,
Uh-huh.
I think it said you can't miss any part of it, it's important, so if you can't commit to the entire 10
It's
weeks
pretty
or whatever.
intensive, I think,
Okay.
yeah. And I've seen the teens, when I used to work for DIA, the kids work together very intensely, and it seems like a really powerful program to participate in, if it's a good match.
Okay.
And then the last thing I wanted to mention is that tomorrow night, there is a planning board meeting, 7 o'clock at City Hall. And there are several proposed places on it that I think should be of interest to everyone. There's one that is 307 units, 7 residential buildings on Edgewater Place, which I guess is maybe next to the creek.
No, near the train station.
Or near the train station, sorry. And then there's another 98 units. So this is on top of the building that is already happening in Beacon, already approved, some of it, not quite finished, but I think it would be important to go and ask questions. I certainly feel that there would be an impact on the schools if these were built. And that's all.
Thank you.
Oh, and there's a curriculum meeting tomorrow?
Wednesday, the 10th.
At 10?
No, on the
Oh,
10th
at
at
2:15.
2:15.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Sure.
I'm done. Thank you,
Positive.
Anthony.
All right. Kristen?
The next wellness committee meeting is June 8th at 4 o'clock, I believe, at the high school. Just to briefly touch on the subject that came up on that social media discussion. I think it was a little bit unclear whether it was just kind of the same group of kids or whether there was, one of the shop owners were complaining about shoplifting, lack of supervision, kind of intimidation, and it did sound like it was sort of one group of kids. I think that the schools became relevant in that there seemed to be a jump to contact the police. Like there was a lot of recommendations that these shop owners involve the police, and there seemed to be a lack of faith that if they reached out to the schools and alerted the schools, that the schools would do anything about it. And I know that I'm just kind of bringing the discussion up. I don't, just to add some more detail. I don't know what can be done exactly, but I think our awareness is important, and it would be a shame if it suddenly became a police situation, I think, if that was avoidable. I don't know if anybody, I know I sent it today, but the revised board goals, I'm sure not everyone's had a chance to look at them, but in fitting with our curriculum goal of the 21st century learning model, had a meeting with two people, one from the Omega Institute and one from an organization called the Cloud Institute. And they are bringing a program called Education for a Sustainable Future to New York. It's something that's been adopted in New Jersey to the point that it's actually part of their school board association, and it's had an 85% adoption rate, so schools are doing this. They would like, they're not going to start at the state level. They want to identify 3 communities that they can partner with because it's in its very early stages, and they would really like to work with Beacon. And they are offering, it's usually quite an involved and somewhat expensive training once it's established, but they'd like us to start to help build it with them. And it would be hosted at the Omega Institute August 4th through the 6th. It's a Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. They'd like representatives from our school board. They said facilities people are important, curriculum people are important. They're also, I attended a meeting with my husband who does a lot of work with the community, so they want stakeholders, they want city representatives, librarians, and officials, and they also really want students, and any students that are selected would attend for free. It's $50 per person, and they would offer a waiver for anybody who, it's really just to cover the cost of food. But they're going to have John Henry, who's the New Jersey School Boards Association representative for sustainable schools, do case study presentations, and then they're going to kind of lead this demonstration about how you include this in curriculum and how you build out a program on a citywide level. And just as an example, Long Branch, New Jersey, comparable in size to Beacon, they started an initiative like this, and in cooperation with students and their facilities and their curriculum people, identified a $400,000 savings for the district. So it has a lot of potential, and it really fits with a lot of our goals. So I'd like to proceed with it and see if anybody wants to contact me and we can start to build this team. I think it's kind of an exciting opportunity.
So what were the dates again? Was it
August 4th through the 6th.
Does it need,
Is there anybody?
does it need support from the board in order to commit
Well,
district personnel?
I'll have to, I'll give you more details. I just wanted to.
Is there a flyer or a website that we can
No,
look at?
I mean, there is a website. I'll send you a link. They were changing it because the link to the website had the higher cost, but what they've decided to do is shift it and try to, what they would love to do is have programs, and then there would be ongoing support and training from them for the groups, the municipalities that they partner with. So it does, the way that it was on their website was much more expensive, and now they've decided with this model to build case studies that they're going to go with this, just the cost of food, and then we wouldn't be staying over at the Omega Institute. It would be during the day. So I'll send it once it's updated.
Okay, thank you.
Anthony?
I'm sorry. I forgot one thing.
No way.
I'm so sorry. But this is a little bit time sensitive, so I just wanted to mention one more thing that's happening at DIA. With our high school students, all of our teachers are involved, Mr. Gersh, Ms. Farley, Mr. Perez, and Mr. Lyon. And it's happening this weekend for Community Free Day, so it's free. It's always free for Beacon residents to get into DIA, but the Beacon High School students are doing this like digital, it's called the Light Party, where they're gonna kind of explore color and light based on this artist Dan Flavin, who works with fluorescent light. And everyone is invited. It's from 12:30 to 1 at DIA. That's it.
What was the date?
Saturday, the 13th. Actually, the entire program is from 11 to 1. And they did something really cool last fall in the Sarah with instruments and everything. It's always, they do really great programs, so it's worth going if you can come. I'm done.
Sure.
I promise.
Kristen, were you done?
I think so. I'll let you know later.
Georgia?
We had a policy committee meeting on May 1st, and there are first reads for several policies. This is going with updating our policy booklet. So they're pretty much basic financial area policies that are on for first reads this evening. And that's all I have.
Okay. Ken?
So I too attended the induction ceremony for the Honor Society students, and it was a pleasure to see. I think there were 48 students and 38 that night attended. And so I just wanted the students to know that that's an important step in your life, and that you should participate in that event and take pride in accomplishing good grades. And most of the students there participate in community activities as well as outside community activities, and it's just an important part of being in your school. So kudos to those students and to their parents and teachers, because those are the the leaders of tomorrow. I hear that there's a senior class field day trip happening on Tuesday. Is that happening? And the only reason why I'm mentioning it is that the students seem to be very excited about it. And it's supposed to be at Memorial Park, and I thought that was nice, but I was like, I don't know if that's happening.
Tuesday tomorrow or Tuesday next week?
Actually the 16th. So I've heard of when my kids were here, senior skip day, but I hear that there's an official.
I was going to ask if it was sanctioned.
Right. So I hear that there's an official trip a field day trip to the Memorial Park for the students, and I thought that was great because I'm actually going to be very strong in the PTO to get a senior class trip next year. I'm going to advocate for that.
So your understanding is the entire senior class is going to Memorial
Park on the 16th, and it's a field day trip, and it's approved.
Let's definitely get them further away next year.
Right. Well, yeah, that is the goal. So the PTA, I'm counting on Kimberly Lennon, if you're anywhere, to make that happen, like she does everything else. I just wanted to say thank you to all of the PTOs, PTAs, PTSOs in the district who took the time out to really appreciate the teachers and administrators throughout all of the school buildings. It's just a pleasure to see all the postings on Facebook and let all of the teachers and administrators and people that bring these buildings together know that they are appreciated. And so that time is set aside every year at every building, and they really do a good job at that. And I think that, it helps the morale level. And so, kudos to all of you who did that, as well as the committees and the parents who are on the sidelines who just make sure that the cupcakes and food gets where it needs to get. So thank you for that. I also heard, I'm always hearing things back, that there's a Beacon 5K run, right? And so there may be a registration issue. And so I said I would bring this up because I participated in Ketchum's 5K run, and we registered online. And so there's an online issue, I think, at Beacon. And I was like, well, I don't know if there should be an online issue, because I did it at Ketchum and I want to say Wappinger's 5K that I participated in. So I guess we could talk about
I thought there
that.
was something wrong with the online registration. So I just received the facility request form to have the 5K. It's being sponsored by the girls basketball team. But my understanding was the online component, there was an issue with the actual component of it. So I can reach out to Ms. Dahl and find out the problem.
Yeah, because they were saying that the problem is that we want to do it the old way, like a paper check. And I believe with the online system, you can register, all of us can register, our names will register and our fees will register. And at the end of that, the person that sponsors the receiving of the registration then cuts the district a check. So I think if the district really needs a paper check at the end, they can actually get that. But the online, it will track the same way. That's what I got.
Okay.
I think the logistics are important, but I would just like confirmation now that the board is not expected to participate.
No, I didn't really want to sign us up. It was a color run. I do have some goals for us.
Just really coasting on the basketball thing, and I just want to stay there.
What is the date of the 5K?
June 3rd. And I won't be able to attend this. I'll be attending NAMI. They're having a walk, and I have a youth program that I'm operating in the Beacon and Fishkill area, so I'll be attending a NAMI walk with those students. And then Naviance are we secured yet? Are we paid? Are we ready to roll out for the summer? Yes.
It's being worked on.
It's being worked on. So will I know? Because I want to know, are we near the end of the? Because we got to pay. Right now is the time to pay and then get the packet and then right?
Yeah, so no, nothing new is gonna happen until we've got the budget vote
Okay.
through on
Okay.
Tuesday, but, by the next board meeting, we should be able to share some details.
Okay. And then, let's see, that's 5. Safety, we're waiting till we secure someone, right?
Well, yes, but we're gonna have, we need to have a district safety meeting
Before
June? Before the second board meeting in June.
Okay, that's what I looked up the last
Yeah.
one, okay. So, and then, just encouraging everyone to go out and vote. I've been speaking to some community members, and some people believe that if they have children in a district that's already graduated, that they don't have to vote in the school board election, or they didn't think that they had the right to vote in a school board election. And so, if you're a resident of Beacon and Fishkill and Rockland, I think at some point, you right? You can, no?
Beacon City School District.
Right, but I said that, but it sometimes doesn't make sense because people say, well, I live in Walkman, because I'm like, are you a part of the Beacon City School District? They say yes, so then I say you can vote. So I'm just telling people that local government matters. I think this is where it begins. Taking pride in what happens locally really affects what we do on a high level. So I encourage people to go out and exercise their right to vote. And the last one you'll bring up, Lake Placid and the BOE meeting. I guess the board thing we get to last, right?
All right, so I have a couple of updates. First, I want to start off by happy belated Teacher Appreciation Week, which was last week. We didn't have a board meeting, but I see some teachers sitting out in the stands, so thank you, and keep up the good work. I do have some comments about the board goals Kristen sent out. If you're okay with it and everybody received it, that's something that we could make a motion to approve tonight and so forth. So I talked to Georgia about a motion, and then what we'll do is we'll read the specific goals, not the work underneath the goals, but the goals.
Sure.
And then we could look to get them in ink for the public to see, and then maybe on our website as a board, our board goals till the end of the year. So that was there. Mr. Rakowski isn't here. He had a work obligation that he couldn't get out of, and he knows that he's missed a couple Board of Education meetings. But he did send me some updates that he wanted me to fill the board in on and answer questions from the F&O committee. So you guys were all sent a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet is some of the work that has been going on at the Facility and Operations Committee. What we're trying to do is we've been working with our financial advisor and our architects, and we've been identifying what needs to get done as part of a capital project. We've pinpointed that we could probably do a project around $8 million without raising any taxes, meeting what needs to be done that was on the state identified list, and throwing in some AHA work that needs to get done in the district. This is the first pare down that you're seeing. So we have it down to about $10 million. The total scope of what was given to us was about, 15, I want to say? Was it about 15 million? 22 million, okay. 22 million, so we pared it down to 10 million. Now we're just going in and we're trying to have something that's really noticeable at each school and making sure that we're meeting the safety regulations as well. And that's where the Proposition 4 on the budget comes into play, because this is going to help us with the funding. So more money that we could get into a capital reserve will help us increase the amount of money that we could spend on the capital project without increasing taxes. The Facility and Operations Committee has made it a point to get the biggest bang for our buck, and that's how come we're working with our financial advisor to see what is the aidable and what the aidable rate is for some of the work that we have earmarked to get done. And we are going to give a full presentation, or Mike will give a full presentation at the June 5th Board of Education meeting, where hopefully we'll have it up so the public can kind of see what the scope of work will be and so forth for that. But he just wanted to get that to the board members ahead of time so you could see. It might look a little bit different when we come back on June 5th with a list that's a little bit more pared down. Did I leave anything out, Anthony or Craig?
No, that's a pretty good summary. We're going to need to come to the final proposal pretty soon, because there's a schedule on this that leads to eventually a public vote, which would be late in the year. as I understand the
Correct.
schedule.
Our goal is to, if the board could, we present to the board in June, that we would be able to get it on a ballot in December of 2017, so we can have the time frame of getting it to SED for approval and then getting the bids and so forth for it.
For construction targeted for 2019.
Right, and we could lay out that timeline when we do the presentation on June 5th, as to what it takes and why we're planning so far in advance for 2019 project and 2022.
Yes, there's a phase two, so to speak, which is for a later year, 2022 construction. And what gives rise to this is that with a philosophy of trying not to have any increase in taxes beyond the level that we currently pay, as we pay off old debt, we're able to bring in new projects to keep up the progress. And I think one thing the district has done very well over the years, despite controversies that we've had, is that we've taken pretty good care of our facilities. And that's because we do this kind of work. And we look at the consultant reports, and we have the architects go over the buildings, and we see what needs to be done and what opportunities there are for improvement. And a lot of it is plain vanilla. It's fixing roofs, and that's very important. If you've ever had a roof leak on you or a building start to get musty because of problems, you know how important it is to keep up with what nature is always taking apart. So I'm pleased to say that we're doing that.
All right. On October 12th through the 14th is the NISBA convention. Last year it was in Buffalo. This year it will be in Lake Placid. So just start looking at your calendars. I don't think we could send a whole board, but we could send a representative of the board to it. So if we could have a conversation at the next board meeting after looking at your calendars to see, one, if you're interested in going, and two, if you're able to go. It's a financial commitment that the district has to make, so if you say that you're going to go, we can't back out, because there's a fee for the convention, and then the other costs that are related to it. So if you commit, you're committing. All right. What else do I have? Graduation is June 24th.
Yes, I'm confirming the time. It's either 9 or 10. That's
It's
when
either
it's-
9 or 10 in the morning. And I know that there was some chat through email about the board. The board typically sits on the stage for it. If you have students graduating, you'll be able to hand your diploma to your child. George is looking forward to it, I know. All right. That's about it. Alrighty. Unfinished business. Anthony?
So I make a motion that we discuss bringing the school to prison pipeline presentation to the Beacon City School District.
Is there a second?
Second.
Meredith. And the motion was to look into bringing this.
Yeah.
Motion to look into bringing a presentation about the school
School to prison pipeline.
to prison pipeline. Is comments or questions, discussions?
So just for an introduction, there was a similar presentation done in Poughkeepsie, and Beth's in the audience, who gave a wonderful presentation at the diversity committee that we last had in April on what they talked about. But just in short, the presentation includes the Student Safety Act, talks about school discipline, students' rights and responsibilities, and also a discussion on police in schools.
Is the presentation for staff or students?
It's for everyone. I don't believe it's restricted. I believe they do have certain things that could help the district directly if you don't want to involve the public. They have an audit that they could help us with, and the NYCLU. That also came out in the diversity committee meeting. But I was just talking about the public presentation. The open to the public presentation.
Open, like a night forum?
Yeah.
Do you have a contact?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been
I think
trying
you
to-
shared, did you share it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Beth, I, and Lorraine Hexel from NAACP, we're trying to talk to someone about coming in. Beth knows someone, I know someone different, but I just wanted to get the board's okay to continue that, so the district, we can sponsor the district.
Is there a PowerPoint that goes along with the presentation that we would be able to preview or something?
Yes. Yes.
Could we get that before we say, I think it's worthy of looking in. The motion was to look
It's just
into
to
the
look
bringing.
into it, so I think that the PowerPoint
Yeah.
can be part of that process.
Okay.
I'll try to get one.
So in addition to the presentation, we'll be looking at the other component, which I think is integral to the diversity committee, which is the auditing component that looks at all of these statistics. And so we're looking at that data right now. And so as we look at that data and then have an expert who's been doing the work, they pretty much can guide us on how we move forward. So I think it's twofold. It's not one thing. The auditing component is a different section.
No, I mean, I would like, yeah, they can offer two different services. I think that'd be a different motion. But I would like the school district to engage the NYCLU to do a friendly audit of their discipline policy.
So you can have them come to the diversity committee, and we could use that as the platform for one of the presentations if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I think that would be, I don't know if that would be.
No, I think that
I have
would be-
limited knowledge about the topic, so if I'm hearing conversation, I think that would be a nice platform to advertise diversity committees holding a presentation.
Yeah, if I can get them on time, yes. But, if the consensus is that there's interest in the board, then I'll work with Beth and Lorraine and continue to bring more information forward.
Yeah, I'm interested in looking into it further.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an interest because
All
we're
right.
already doing that. I think
All those in
we're-
favor of,
Can I ask that you send us, I'm assuming there's a website.
It's the NYCLU.
Yeah, NYC. If you Google NYCLU
Okay.
School to Prison Pipeline, talk about.
This is just to get
this is to look into further,
Yeah.
yep. So the motion was to look into bringing a presentation about the school to prison pipeline, and we're all in favor of that?
Yes.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So now, does the district want a friendly audit from NYCLU on this discipline policy?
I think they should come to our meeting and then,
Talk about it.
right,
Talk about
and
it.
tell us because right now we're in our own position to check out ourselves. So we're trying to gather our own data. So maybe we're looking in the wrong, direction, or maybe we're on the right track. So I think soliciting their support would help us in the diversity committee to make sure that we're actually pulling up the right information to get us where we want to go. Right now we're grasping at just what we think, but if they're the expert, I think that would help in guiding us. I don't know what anyone else thinks.
The one committee meeting that I went to, I think Beth had presented information that was, the NYCLU had already compiled. So
By Beacon or in general?
For Beacon.
Was it for Beacon?
Yeah, it was for Beacon, Wappingers, and Fish.
Oh,
and
okay.
Poughkeepsie.
I know you said something, but I don't know. So I think we just need that, I guess, in the presentation from them then, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be great if they presented to the diversity committee and then the committee reported to the board. I think that would be a great way to go.
Yeah.
I agree.
So you're gonna reach out to them, Anthony?
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. It may end up being just maybe a workshop at a board meeting, maybe.
No, we
No,
can-
as a diversity committee, you're the chair of the
Right.
Yes, I
diversity
know, I
committee, so you
can try
can
to get
set
them
it up
there,
and,
but I only have one more date left,
we
6/12.
can plan another date.
Okay.
Right. So the
Just
goal
come
is
up
to
with,
get
you
them
know.
to come to the June.
June 12th committee as well. So I can-
Thank you.
Motion to adopt the Board of Education goals that were established at the April 30th Board of Education meeting for the period of today, May 8th through June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Comments or questions? I just want to read, I know Kristen was kind enough to take notes and send us a copy, but I think it's important for the public to hear them, and then after we have the discussion and we adopt them, we could get them on the website and in print. So the first goal that we had was a fiscal goal, and it was the Board of Education will work collaboratively with the superintendent to advocate for the financial needs of our district locally and at the state level, and to work to secure public support for the 2017-2018 budget that improves academic offerings. The curriculum goal was provide a 21st century educational learning environment that meets individual students' needs and supports them to achieve their highest potential. Communication was to build trust between the district and the community by creating a culture of cohesiveness, which improves communication within the district as a whole. We had a community engagement to seek the involvement, collaboration, and participation of the entire community in the learning process in order to promote and support student success. And then we had a diversity goal. The Beacon City School District is committed to increasing staff diversity to meet the educational and social-emotional needs of all students, creating a culture of awareness, equity, and safety while uniting school and community, fostering unity of the school and the community as a culturally aware and diverse entity, ensuring that all students in the Beacon City School District receive an equitable education, and identifying and addressing the barriers that prevent students from completing experiences, all that the district has to offer. And Kelly, we'll send those to you, and maybe we could get those on the website.
I think I copied Kelly. I didn't. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll copy you. I thought I did.
Okay. And Kristen was kind enough to put down how some of them could be measured and so forth. We wouldn't put how they're measured for the board goals, but that's something that we want to ensure that we're doing and so forth. Is there any discussion about the board goals?
No, just the fiscal, we just need to have semicolons and.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 8-0. Good job.
Okay,
board.
so between locally and at? Or between?
Needs of our district locally, yep, so let me take out that and semicolon at the state level and work.
Okay. I'll edit that, send it. So everybody want me to just send the edited version to Kelly, and then she can put it on the website? We don't need to copy everyone again, right?
That'd be great.
Okay.
And you could cut out the
The
measurements.
to-dos, yeah.
All right. Is there any other unfinished business? All right.
Was that new or no? You don't want to do it? You want to?
What? What are you saying?
I said new as a.
Mr. White, I have a question about the consent agenda, actually.
Hold on. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and the item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. Is there anything that anybody would like to pull from the consent agenda? Nancy?
Yeah, I was going to say, Mr. Rotowski wanted to add questions, and I guess as a point of order, it'd be up to any of the board members to sponsor those questions in his absence. Is that how we're going to work this?
If you feel like you want to, he shared his thoughts. He didn't express, in my opinion, he didn't express that the need. I think he was just expressing that he was reviewing the agenda. But
All right, I'll sponsor his questions. 1206, 1208, 1215.
hold on.
Okay.
1206,
1208,
1208,
1215,
12:13,
15.
15,
And I have my own 1209.
12:09. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to 12.02 through 12:19, minus 12.06, 12.08, 12.15, and 12.09.
So moved.
Georgia is first, Kenya is second. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 8-0. 12.06,
So page 2,
hold on,
sorry,
I need a motion for 12.06.
motion to accept 12.06.
Anthony, a second.
Second.
Kenya, comments or questions? Go ahead.
So orders report 525, 2017, page 2. Check number 289 for Myers Contracting, $28,508. What was it for?
That was a payment, it's out of the capital fund, so we did the last version of the $12 million capital project over the summer when we did the renovations for the Rondout kitchen. So because there was a punch list and some to-do items, we didn't make a final payment till now.
Oh, okay.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 8-0. 12.08, any of the,
Motion to accept 12.08.
Anthony, a second.
Second.
Georgia, comments or questions?
So the question is the school calendar. The amount of time over Christmas holiday, Mike was concerned about difficulty traveling, and we wanted to know if there was a possibility of adding another day before or after the holiday.
And my question is, what was the change?
I don't know what.
Oh, the change was a typo at the bottom.
Oh.
So the days that were, that we would use in case of excess snow days, one was a typo, one said March instead of May, so we wanted to
Okay.
make sure that it was clear, so we had the board adopt it again. Anthony, can you repeat your question?
He wants to know if there's a possibility of adding a day on Christmas break.
That's actually, this calendar is consistent with Duchess Bosse's and with the other districts, because we look at Duchess Bosse's calendar when they adopt it. So it is consistent with them, so we don't usually take a holiday when Duchess Bosse's in service, is in session, because we don't want the children to miss.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I see.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 8-0. 12.15, I need a motion for.
Motion to accept 12.15.
Second.
Second.
Comments or questions?
So policy 6740 on purchasing, this second paragraph talks about pre-pressed purchase orders. What's the definition of a pre-pressed purchase order?
So an official pre-pressed purchase order would be a manual type form, triplicate, but we do use the computer.
Okay.
So I think the important part of that paragraph talks about pre-numbered purchase orders, which is really what an auditor would look at. And we do not assign numbers, they are pre-numbered as they come out of the computer to the next one. And so we have to account for all the numbers similar to checks and purchase orders.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 8-0. 12.09,
Motion to accept 12.09.
is there a second? Kenya, comments or questions?
So there's a assignment of staff for the Beacon High School voting booth. Don't we also have one in Glenham?
Yes, we appointed those personnel in a previous meeting.
Previous meeting, okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
So we don't need any more people, this is the
We had
last
a
one.
couple of changes, which is why you're seeing this so late, but Kelly's very good about making sure everything's all done a couple months ago, just to make sure.
Because there's no more board meetings until May 6th.
Then we have to use the staff we have.
Okay.
We'll make it work.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 8-0. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Hold up.
Oh, sorry.
Which
I don't want to shut the meeting, it ain't midnight yet. No, is there new business or no?
No, there's
We already
not.
did new business.
I said add it on the, what did you want to add?
No, I just want to know, I mean, I have an issue with the kids not having stuff to do. And so I wanted to, again, revisit the whole, I know it's not one person, so I wanted to make a motion to discuss reviewing the code of conduct at assemblies at the high school and middle school level, and then the clubs in the high school, because I still don't know how we're calculating the attendance and if the programs that currently exist in the high school are programs that the students are interested in. I don't really know that number. And I know that that's not really, it's a concern to me because the kids are.
So what would your motion be though?
My motion would be to discuss whether or not it would be feasible to have an assembly on reviewing the code of conduct within the school buildings, the middle school and high school.
You want the board to do that?
I don't know who really does that. This is something I asked for like 2 years ago, and I don't know really how to get it out. So I guess I have to make a motion to have a discussion on it, or it should be within the school buildings. Like it's necessary. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the same for the clubs. Like I don't know who's attending what, and there should be an attendance sheet, and so.
But that's the administrative responsibility.
I know,
I'm
I keep
just
asking
trying-
that question, but I don't get an answer. And then there's kids that probably don't go to those programs, so you have stipends going to programs where you may not have students attending, and so if we can get the students stuff that they're interested in, then we'll have more students attending school activities.
So do you know of a specific incidents where no one's attending a club that's
No, because they
being
won't,
paid?
I don't know what the sign-in sheet looks like, so that, I mean.
But do you have a specific club that you're thinking of?
Okay, I'll look at it. I have the clubs on my refrigerator. So
And like that, you know that someone's not attending, like where it's not
I don't
being
really
attended?
know. How do I know that? I don't really know that because I don't know if there's attendance. There's supposed to be attendance with all those clubs.
I mean,
Can I say something?
Just so
What
that
we
we can
do-
continue discussion, I'll make a second on the motion to continue discussion.
Thank you.
So two things. The assembly and the code of conduct would be something administrators would do, and this is the first I'm hearing of it, but I think it's a conversation that we can have with Dr. Landau when he starts about going forward for the next school year. As far as the clubs are concerned, there's a whole bunch of clubs in the teacher's contract that are not fulfilled. And we have, when we spoke to our attorney at another time, it's the district's discretion that we can create clubs when we feel the need. So if there are clubs that are not available that there's a student interest for, and we have created some over the last couple of years, it needs to come forward through the high school administration to ask, so they need a moderator, they need a teacher there or someone. So we can visit that, now that it's towards the end of the year, we can visit that over the summer and try to put postings out to see who would be the moderator. But now's the time to start talking about it and bringing it forward if there's clubs out there that want to be created.
Right, so will they assess the usage of the current clubs? Like, if there's attendance sheets that should go with it, my research says that there should be attendance sheets that accompany these programs. Chess club, I'm going to use for an example. And so how do we know how many students are attending that chess club? And if...
So we can ask the question. So the difficult part is, because there's only 2 or 3 students in a club, does that determine that maybe it's not a club we run, or maybe that's the only thing that they join while they're here? So it's difficult.
I think that's fine.
Right, it's difficult. I mean, if no one's showing up, then obviously we have an issue. But, as long as we can offer something for all students to be interested in, I think that's the approach the district wants. So we've always been a little bit cautious about canceling a club just because they have a small number of participants.
That might be like his only home.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
I don't want to.
It doesn't sound like that's stopping new clubs from happening.
Right,
There's
I don't
unused
wanna-
stipends.
Right, I don't want to cancel what already exists, but I do want to make sure that there's a tracking system, because again, we have deficits in certain areas. So if there's a need to help the students stay engaged in positive activities, then that's what we should be, at least I believe, this is my belief only, that we should give them that opportunity. I think it would be less.
Well, we've talked about, we've talked about already starting an art club at the middle school. That's something that they've been talking about for a while, and now we have the interest. So now's the time to talk about it, because between now and the summer, we really need to start posting for those clubs. If they don't exist in the contract, we start working with where they would fit, based upon if they meet once or twice. There's a lot of interest in clubs. It just has to come forward through here. So the teacher would need to reach out to the administrator, say, hey, I'd like to do that kind of club. and then move it forward. But without knowing it, you know what I mean, we need to start working now. It's the end of the year. We have to start planning for next year as soon as school is over. So now would be the time to think about it and talk
So the
about it.
administrator reaches out to the
So
teachers.
the teachers, if the teacher wants to run a club, you know, or the administrators could ask if there's any clubs. There's a lot of wants out there, there is. So I think they just need to communicate that. And then we can get the ball rolling on this side.
This is a similar conversation we had with the dropout prevention task force, and I never was able to figure out what happened after that. But supposedly towards the end of Walkley's employment here, there was supposedly some sort of a student interview process to figure out what students wanted. And you know, my opinion, which is only my opinion, besides my co-chair at the time, was that students should be surveyed or some other way of gathering information from the students, and also maybe perhaps suggested what could be on the menu for them to say, well, you know, hey, I didn't think about that, maybe I would like to do that after school. So not something that I think we can resolve tonight, but I think is something that I would like to see more conversation on in terms of student activities.
So if I can add to that, so this came up in a meeting with some students and parents the other night around student advocacy. We talked about a survey, whether there was one that was started, you know, by a student, and if that was a framework to build off of, and if not, then the district would put together some survey questions. But it was certainly along those lines in terms of involvement in school and connection to school activities and interest both already existing as well as new ideas. So we have some things in the works that would, you know, to do a simplified survey that would get some broader student feedback.
Now I'm a board member and no longer, you know, probably no longer a parent, so
You're always a
makes
parent.
me very sad.
A district.
Yeah, but I mean, I would like to work on that project if it's allowable, because of my experience from the task force and all the information that we collected there.
Well, I think more to come as we transition in with Dr. Landau for what will start over the summer, but certainly a simplified survey I think is a little bit in the works, and we're happy to share that out, you know, for any feedback with you guys. But I'd like to get something out, even in a simplified format. Before kids leave, you know, before our high school students are leaving at the end of the school year.
I would like that. That would make me happy.
Okay.
I understand.
All right.
Thank you.
There you go.
Any motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.